That'd be sick.
And like trips like this.
People would watch you.
Up for the video. Action. Are you ready, buddy? Yeah, go.
Axe. Knife.
Stay here for a second.
Yeah, I did.
And then,
There's a folder here.
yeah.
Chef Talia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good enough. Circle.
That was our point.
But replace "and" with another word.
What?
Replace-
East and west?
No, with a 2-letter word.
Or
Yes.
east or west?
No.
Left or right?
Yes, yes.
Can you turn on the AC?
If we don't have time, we don't have to, but it's still cool.
Yeah. Slightly wet. You want a video?
Yeah, I got one.
I'm reuniting with Tiny today, aka Clementine, and she's so excited. Look at her. Okay, I'm gonna go in. Hi, Tiny. Hi. Yes, you're so happy, aren't you? So happy. Woo.
As well, and that they give you a lot of food.
Florida with Teresa. Look at our burritos. Maybe it's the bird that we saved one time. So, you like jazz? What's up, everybody? I'm with Caitlyn and Clementine. Hopefully she'll behave. Pack sun for like a little bit after dinner tonight, and we were like, oh, we're gonna splurge, right? And yeah, we splurged. Anyway, these were buy one get one free, so I got this shirt.
Excited to try it on.
And now Caitlin's gonna show you her shirt.
Sleeved, and it says "Pay me," and it's on the front too. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Just
And she
the
didn't
dog
know
was
that Huff was a brand.
I don't
so
know
she was
shit.
like, Casey, is this bad?
I was just checking so I can wear this to work.
Alright, and then I got these adorable shorts, and they're mom shorts, so you know they're making them look nice.
Oh, they match your shirt you're wearing.
Yes. And then I got these really cute,
Those are so
jeans,
cute.
little daisies on them.
So cute.
Saw Midsommar, the movie, tonight, and we have some analysis to do.
Some thoughts.
Big thoughts. We love thoughts. Beginning of the movie, her sister in the email that she gets, this is the last time parents are coming to goodbye. She has bipolar disorder. And then we see her angrily, or like frustratingly, going to her cabinet and also taking a pill. So we have to assume that she's probably also has a mental disorder. Calls her boyfriend, Christian, blah, 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 blah. We see everything, basically. And it's very well thought out, graphic, I would say.
The whole movie was great.
Right. The whole movie is very graphic. Might be kind of bad because then you're putting people that have bipolar disorder in like a bad position. It's like, oh, well, you're gonna act like this towards your family members and make them all stressed out, and then you're gonna go do this bad thing and like leave everyone behind, whatever, as like a ploy to get attention.
I know, I didn't like that. That was the one part I was like, wait a minute, wait.
Hey, off. Right, so Danny and her relationship with Christian that we know of in the beginning of the movie. We find out that they have been together for 4 years. It acts like they aren't even together.
I know, it's really weird. And he even talks about, he's like, Yeah, like, I've been wanting to, like, break up with her or whatever. And
Her family died. He basically made it all about himself.
he did!
And was just like, God, this is putting me so, like, in a bad position. And
I'm taking care of you. And it's like,
stressed. I need a break.
her
I need to go
entire
to Sweden.
family-
And she was confused and
Yeah.
wanted to talk about it. And he was like, God, I'm sorry. I'm just so sorry that you found out like that.
I was like, bro, just listen. You don't have to talk. You just listen to what we're telling you. You know who you are.
Swedish guy, pretty sure his name was Belle. Love her in a way. Like, infatuated with her. He drew
Yeah.
a picture of her for her birthday and gave it to her. He remembered her birthday and her boyfriend didn't.
Yeah.
When she came over to her apartment or whatever, she told him, like, oh, I'm going to Sweden. He was like, oh, I'm very excited for you to come. I'm, like, really excited. And then he brought up how his parents died, too, when he was younger. And so he became an orphan. And she at first was like freaking out. She was like, why are you telling me this? Why are you bringing up my parents? Like, that's so inappropriate.
Yeah.
We realized that he brings it up because he lost a family and she just lost a family. Kind of get foreshadowing that she's going to also gain a family by the end of the movie. Everybody in the movie that comes with them on the trip, except for Danny, gets sacrificed or mutilated or is basically just dead by the end of the movie, except for Danny. And each of them have a symbolic purpose, or like they were strung up in a symbolic way, whatever. So Josh, he and Christian were both like studying the same thing. They're both going to do their thesis on Midsommar or whatever. So basically he was really curious about their scriptures. And so he visited like library of scriptures with this guy, and when he went in there, the curtains were closed, which is kind of an ode in the Bible where the curtain is closed and is only allowed for the elders, higher ups to see because they're more holy than the peasants or like the regular people, which is kind of how Midsommar was.
Yeah.
But then when he came back to take pictures of the scripture secretly at night,
Without permission.
right, the curtains were open. And so that
Bless
could
you.
have been another ode to the curtains in the New Testament being
Your ear got flipped.
ripped open,
Can I
the
fix
thick
your ear?
curtain, so that means everybody could see. But because of
Off.
Josh being caught in the act, nobody gets to see it.
Off.
That was interesting.
Stop.
Mark was the vaping cool guy that wore
Oh.
Tim's and, his jeans were cuffed. Anyways, Will Poulter, though, love him. His character.
sucked.
His character was comic relief, and he peed on their ancestral tree, and so he had something coming to him.
Yeah.
And so they made him a jester because he was like the
I
joking,
know, and they made him into
lighthearted guy.
those like jester dolls that are all floppy.
That when they hit Josh in the head after the
Yeah.
scripture, and his face was like kind of off up
Yeah.
here, and his penis was out and like cut off, and he was just like, oh, like making weird noises and staring at him.
Yeah, lots of penis in this movie.
Mm.
And vagina.
Mm.
But not in a fun way.
So there's a couple that comes also, they're from London. They come with Belle's brother, and they're engaged. And basically there's this part in the movie where the two eldest people jump off a cliff. Ah!
Extremely graphic. I was not expecting that. Well, when the lady jumped first, I wasn't fast enough, so I saw that. So after that, I was like this.
Yeah.
I should have just taken my glasses off.
Tip,
Blind as a
tip
bat.
Tuesday. Just take your glasses off. If you're done looking at something, you're just like,
You're done talking to somebody who's annoying you?
I can't see you, I can't hear you. So this couple,
Oh.
they see this and they decide to freak out, which is completely normal.
We weren't warned. Like, nobody said, Because they even talked about, they're like, oh, tomorrow's the big celebration,
This couple decide to leave, which is, I would have left after the first thing.
Yeah,
okay?
I would have left after the first, bad acid trip.
Oh, God. And Connie's getting her stuff and Simon's stuff. And she's like, okay, I'm ready to go. Where's Simon? And this elder comes by and he's like, you can't go because Simon left without you. There was only 2 people could fit in the truck. And she's like, there's no way he would leave without me. He loves me and he would let me know if he was leaving by himself and he would come back for me. And he was like, well, people change. She was completely like, no, there's something wrong here. He would tell me if he was leaving. So we just see her kind of walk off and go somewhere. And then we don't see her again. And we go to this dinner scene. And this guy's like, I know where Connie is. I can tell you what happened. And he says, well, Simon called her and calmed her down. So then I drove her to the train station. And then we see them at the end. We're going to fast forward a little bit and then come back. But basically, Christian is naked and he runs to hide in this chicken coop. And he turns around and in the chicken coop is Simon. And he's strung up with his lungs still breathing.
So he's still technically alive.
And then sunflowers in his eyes.
And they were pulsating. At first I thought that was the drugs affecting Danny.
He was kind of strung up if he was crucified, except just horizontally.
Yeah, it was definitely biblical.
And they dressed her up with pictures around her. Did you see that?
Yeah, I was trying to.
It was Polaroids. I'm not sure what they were of. The drinks and the tripping on acid and basically
the
nature.
Yeah.
Okay, whenever they gave them drinks, it was this much.
It was a shot.
And they would be tripping for hours. So what the heck was in there? Every time Danny looked down, she was like, there's grass growing out of my hands and feet. Yeah. That the drinks connected everybody. That when the guy that fell, he only broke his leg but was still alive, and everyone was like, he's still alive. And then Danny already had a connection with nature, it seemed like, and then it just enhanced when she became the maid queen.
All they said to her was oh, it's a dance competition.
Who has the most stamina?
Well, and then, so when they get there and the lady's, speaking about it, she's like, oh, and, whoever has the most stamina, who, because we dance until we fall, and whoever has the most stamina, wins.
It was definitely an ode to, ring around the rosies, definitely, until we all fall down.
Yeah.
And then also to, I think Shakespeare, Midsommar, and, old 1600s dances, reproduction system, and how they selectively inbred in order to create a prophet, got to write the scripture. So it was an ongoing scripture that just was going to go on forever. That is cool.
Because it was ever evolving.
Basically chose the person that did not look like anyone else. If you have a disability or if you have a part of you that is deformed, then you're special, and which I mean, of course, everyone's special.
Yeah, and I think too that goes back to, they're different, and instead
they must be holy.
Yeah, and instead of it being you're different and that's bad, which is kind of how we are, they were the opposite. Which that aspect I liked until it got to but we want to create an inbred disabled person on purpose in order to create finish our narrative, and that's our sole job. We lock them away, nobody sees them, and they just sit there and they write the rest of the scripture unburdened, because as neurotypical people, we kind of know, okay, this political thing is going on, there's relationship issues over here. There's drama over here. Gotta get that tea or whatever. And as somebody who maybe isn't good socially, which a lot of people with disabilities are, not everybody, they aren't attuned to that. So they kind of interpreted that as, they're not
clouded.
Yeah. Their vision was clear and which meant like they could basically
judgment?
yeah, it's like there's no judgment because obviously like they had the clearest sight, which I thought was kind of interesting because there's a point to that. Working with special education, that I'm definitely like, yeah, they notice a lot of stuff and they pick up on stuff that you don't think they do because everybody underestimates them or whatever. But at the same time, I don't like the thought of like, oh, well, they don't notice this stuff, which means they're that different, which is like, no, they can. They just, they process stuff differently. It doesn't mean they can't do it.
Talk about Maya, the redhead girl, okay?
Is that her name?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, she was introduced in the beginning of the movie. She's like looking at herself in the mirror, and she does the little breathing, the thing, okay? And then she walks out, and she sees a vision of Christian, and he's like, I don't know if you noticed it, but he was literally like laying down like this.
I know, it was
but then you go to
weird.
you pan to the normal view, and it's literally just him like this.
I know.
And I was
that
like,
actor was really
why
awkward.
was she seeing him like this, but he was really just like, but apparently she got the opportunity to be like, I can have sex now, wow, woo.
I was trying to figure out if that was like a period thing, if that's, because I feel
feel
like
like it's a
it
period
sounded,
thing.
where they were like, oh, she got her period, she's a woman, she can have sex, because she can reproduce now officially.
Right. Before Connie and Simon left, they saw this panel of sheets that basically showed a prophecy. And it was a girl and a boy. And she basically has her period. And she puts her period blood in a cup. And the guy drinks it. And then she gets pregnant. But obviously it foreshadowed something.
I know.
That everybody sleeps in the same barn. And she wakes up one night and she puts a love rune under his bed, which is supposed to be like a love spell potion that makes the boy like attuned to you. And then Danny helps these girls bake some cakes for the whole camp.
Yeah, it was like a meat cake.
Yeah, and a meat cake. Oh god. And somehow Maya's pubic hair gets in Christian's cake. And he sees it and is just like, red. That's interesting. And looks at her. And still eats the cake though. After the
Pubining.
we notice, at least I noticed and I pointed out to her, every single cup is yellow. Like lemonade. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
it was-
lemonade. And
like,
you see
yeah.
his and it's orange. And I'm like, how would that make it or period blood? He not only ate her pubic hair, but also drank her period blood. And so he was in it, like it was gonna happen no matter what. So they take him to the room and then he talks to that old lady and she's like, so what do you think of Maya? Because she's chosen you as a mate. And he's just like, the redhead? I think I ate her pubic hair. They transfer him to like change in this room and he comes out in a robe and they guide him to this barn and guess who's there? First there's some elderly people that make him smell some stuff to get his vitality up.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
And then they open the heavenly door and there's
Of the barn.
a row of women nude. And then his chosen mate nude on a bed of leaves.
Yeah, it was very primal.
Yeah. And then he just kind of walks in and his eyes are like,
Oh, I know. He's like flipping out. He is all
he's like naked women.
People.
Mix
Other
of
women in there.
elderly women,
It was
saggy.
I found it kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, look, different body types. Like, that kind of looks like me. I mean, like, that's not a scene in which I want to be represented. But
Right,
I'm glad
that's
the
what
option was there.
I thought that was interesting. I was like, I like it, but I'm also like, I don't want to
I'm
watch
like,
this.
yes, body positivity, but also like, no, this is weird.
So then, one of the ladies approaches him and disrobes him, and he like slowly makes his way over to the girl and is still staring at her like, And then he kind of lowers himself down, and she like spreads her legs for him, and then things happen. And then obviously she's in fucking pain because she's a virgin. And so she like holds her hand out, and she's like, "Mother." And then her mom leans down, and she's like, "Ah!" And then they all start
like
doing it at the same time, moaning because of the empathy thing, and they all basically start touching themselves, and it's just like,
yeah.
One point, they were like, "Alright, this is taking too long," and they started putting it on his butt.
We need him to hurry the heck
and
up.
then she's literally like, "Can you finish?" And then he finally finishes, and then she like rocks back and forth, and she's like, "I feel the baby."
Yeah, it was a little weird. I'm like,
but then that's when he goes crazy, runs out of the barn naked, and goes to the chicken
running,
coop, sees
dicks
the
swinging
guys,
everywhere.
sees Simon all strung up.
Drugged him with like a paralytic, because when he woke up, they were like, "Oh, Chris, you can't talk or move."
So Danny
You're gonna
becoming
have
the
to
main
wait until YouTube.
queen.
Casey is not a furry.
So basically, Danny becomes this outsider that they bring in, and she decides that, yes, this is my new family, and she becomes the May Queen. So do you think that that is symbolism, like that's their heaven, and like, or is that their Hades, and she's like Persephone?
Oh.
It's nature.
Oh, and she's kind of like stuck there almost.
Right.
Even if she wanted to leave, they probably wouldn't have let her.
Christian was like, "I'm going to do my thesis on Midsommar too, and we can collaborate because you're my bro, right?" And then basically manipulates this guy into saying, "Okay, fine, we can do thesis." Yeah,
Manipulates Josh.
Doing their thesis together. And it's like, Josh had already had this really good idea.
Yeah.
And then
he just kind of
stole
swept
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then, where am I going with this thought?
Belle said that wanted to like create some drama.
Yeah.
So that things
definitely
would happen to them. Yes, moving on to the bear. Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
We pass a freaking bear, and he's like, "So we're just gonna ignore the bear?"
Like, they were like, "Yeah, that's a bear." And I'm like, "I'm sorry."
And the bear's just sitting there like,
in a tiny ass like wooden cage, just chilling.
"PETA, are you listening? PETA!" All the characters end up as some thing at the very end, like tells the story. And Christian gets the worst of it. So Danny's given a choice. She can either choose this random guy from the commune who she doesn't know, or she can choose Christian. And we don't see her make a decision, but you see her face like struggling, but she's looking at Christian. She's trying to see in his eyes if there's anything worth saving. And then we skip.
And this is when he's in the wheelchair too.
Mm-hmm. And then we skip to this guy who's like performing an autopsy on a bear, and he's like, "Okay, boys, listen up."
And it's like children. He's like teaching children how to like move guts and
pans to Christian. And then we see him in the bear suit. And basically they like bless him or curse him, whatever. And they're like, "You have been given the gift, task, blessing of the bear, which is the most sinful." And they did not kill him. They made him die with the fire that they start with all of them in there.
And he's like, he burns like last.
Yes.
There's two random dudes who like self-sacrifice themselves because apparently they do that. That's just a lot of stuff that they do in this commune. But so it has all the dead bodies of like all the friends and like Josh and all those guys. Clown will.
Well, my grandma's a clown. Like, she went to clown school, and she collects clowns.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
did I not know this? I've known you for literally forever.
My birthday party, when she came as a clown, and I was like, "It's a clown!" And we all threw balls at her.
I forgot about that. I blocked that out.
Yeah, that was real.
Oh my god.
That was real. That was my grandma. Get out!
Oh, I'm trying to like laugh at the fact that her grandma's a clown.
Clementine, come here.
hand her like a Red Bull or something.
How Christian was having sex with that virgin redhead
oh.
girl. They made the child with the disability watch.
Yeah, that was messed up. Prophecy stuff,
like write this in the scriptures.
Yeah.
Last thing is when they all went into flames, I felt like that was like a rebirth and a cycle, because they said that life is like a cycle. And so like being born was spring or something.
Yeah, I think
and
it was
then,
spring.
Yeah, adulthood
was
stuff.
Summer.
Working was winter, or no, fall. And then death was winter.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. And so the fire must be a rebirth of like the cycle of life.
Well, and it's kind of like the, like the phoenix rises from the ashes type of rebirth.
Yeah. But also hell and like the bad people going.
True. Like the bear.
But like those two guys that just self-sacrifice themselves, like why did they deserve to go? Right. They already have such little amount of people. How are they sacrificing all these people? Point of missionary work and like sending people out to bring people into the religion.
That's actually like completely what I thought of, because of the way they recruit missionaries and stuff was very similar to be like, oh, it's this fun commune, we're gonna have fun, do some drugs, you're gonna learn, you're gonna go back to school, and then you kind of get there and it's like your life changes, and it not necessarily for the better.
Yeah, this was to the extreme.
Yeah, completely. Well, and it was interesting too, because at the end Danny is like, after Chris burns, and
they did like some interpretive dancing there. I really liked it. I think that for my breathing exercises, I'm gonna like
No, it was, I liked the techniques they used to like calm you down, because even as you're watching it, you yourself start doing it because of the like rhythm. It was very interesting. I actually kind of like that. I want to use that for students. Not screaming at them while it's happening, but like, but the end was interesting because it like pans to her when she's like covered in flowers, kind of trying to like crawl around, and she looked like a beetle. It was a little but no, and then she just like smiles, and like you can tell that she's like relieved, and she looks like this completely new like person, and like she's finally like reborn, like happy, and has a like family, like
the movie like makeup artist or whatever. They definitely made her at the beginning look so worn out and tired and like dead, which of course like it relates to her family not being alive anymore.
Also traveling on a plane. Nobody looks good traveling.
But, and then she transforms into like this happy, springy girl that just looks full of life. And like, I think they did a really good job with that. And
that was cool.
She looks genuinely happy. And she found her family. So one person got a happy ending.
Actually, too, because the redheaded girl did.
She really just wanted a baby, I think. She
Yeah,
didn't
like
really care
legit.
whose it was.
I don't think she really gave a shit, but at the same time, it was kind of interesting because, like, what happens if like that doesn't take or whatever? Like,
okay, but when they first stopped and they had their first acid trip, okay, I saw this. Caitlyn said she didn't. But
I didn't. I wasn't paying attention.
You know,
I was trying to figure out.
We
what
can
the fuck was
confirm it
going
later.
on.
But
Also,
basically,
I dropped my phone.
She was tripping, and everything was fine until someone brought up parents, and they were "Oh God!"
And she was triggered, understandably triggered.
Ran around. She thought some people were laughing at her, and she goes to this other group, and they're like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And I noticed in the background that there's two elders, and they're on their computer, like a laptop computer, and I was like, is that them like blending modern and old times?
Outlines of like their clothes and stuff, like the phone in their pocket. And then eventually, as the movie went on, like the phones went away. Danny, like when they kind of transform her into like what she'll be as like the main queen after she does the dancing, it's kind of after that you don't see like any technology really, and everybody's at that point either dead or fully like immersed in that culture of like, you know, in the wheelchair and the clothing and stuff. So after that, you don't see any like westernization of anything.
Yeah, it was also crazy when she was doing that dance of stamina or whatever, she started speaking in Swedish. So I think she genuinely had become so immersed in the culture that she had like opened her heart or mind up, and she was like, oh my god, like this is my family, and then like the empathy thing just clicked.
And at that point was when I kind of went, oh, okay, she's staying.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, now she understands that. Like she even said, she's like, I understand you, and then they even said something about, oh yeah, that means we're family now or something. And then like she wins the May Queen thing, and I'm like, oh well, she ain't going nowhere. So I was like, maybe, you know, the movie's gonna follow her trying to escape, because this is kind of weird.